throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw. It would be nice to have a blow throw from your mom.
Welcome to One Beer Friday, presented by Doghouse Saloon in downtown Waterloo.
I drank beer with my friends. Sometimes I had too many beers. I liked beer. I still like beer. Had beers, have some beers. One beer, drink beer, drinks beer, drank beer, and drinking beer.
Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know, but I had one beer.
Friday! You probably have beer, Senator.
Each week, Ralph Club, biggest contributor. For that.
I like beer. I don't know if you like beer, Senator, or not. What do you like to drink?
I had one beer. Friday. Yeehaw!
Hanging out and having some beers with friends, which I gladly do, and which I fully embrace.
Well, you think it was... Nope, there was one beer. Friday.
Crack 'em, ladies and gentlemen, because the weekend is here, and it is One Beer Friday, presented by the Doghouse Saloon in Waterloo, where we will be 1 week from today. And this is why Nebraska not only will win the game, but needs to win the game. I do not need...
What?
I do not need another week like it was in 2016, where we were also at the Doghouse Saloon in Waterloo. The only thing that propped up that week was that the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. So I didn't give a crap, but I'm definitely going to give a crap if Nebraska blows this game this week, which they won't, because I guarantee they win. But
if they do,
next week is going to feel the same as Ohio State week 2016.
Wrong. People will start saying he should be fired.
I disagree. I think
more of our audience will. Now you'll still be afraid too, but you know,
it's nothing to do with afraid.
If they, John, if they if they lose tomorrow, they're not going to a bowl for sure. They're for sure not going to a bowl game if they lose tomorrow.
Well, what if they win out the last three and then 6-6?
Yeah. What if they win out the last three?
We don't need.
I'm just saying. I think that the conversation goes from one thing to. I think a lot more people are like, "This is you can't do it anymore. We can't do this anymore. This is bad. You can't do this anymore."
I mean, it's already going to be tough enough to beat Ohio State, but then if you come into it with a 3-game losing streak,
oh man, it would be a 3-game.
A 3-game losing streak.
Gross.
Yeah. So again, it's not going to happen.
So Nebraska has to win for John. This one's for John.
And that way, next Friday at the Doghouse,
let's go.
Won't seem like, oh, God, I got a game tomorrow. By the way, keep sending us your picks and hashtag One Beer Friday, and we will retweet them out to the universe on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, and one of you will win $25 to the Doghouse.
Speaking of picks, that was PICS. Have you asked for picks PICKS from our fine friends for tomorrow's game? Do we know which way the friends of the program are leaning? Okay, I was wondering, are they in on this? Are they out on this?
I forgot.
Okay, it's all good.
I'm sorry.
I said it's all good. It's not a big deal.
I was really busy this morning.
I mean, too. I had to finish the movie.
There was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I forgot. Normally I do it on Friday morning.
It's okay. We all forgive you. I'll put out a poll right now.
No better time like the present.
At USC 1620, what's going to happen
22
tomorrow?
22 and a half hours or 21 and a half hours to kick off, so there's plenty of time to get your votes in.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some trends. Here's some betting trends for tomorrow. In this series, going back to when Nebraska joined the conference, Nebraska's 5-3 against Purdue overall, 3-4-1 against the spread. Purdue has not only won 2 out of the last 3, they've also won 2 out of the last 3 against the number. That's in the series. Now, when Nebraska is at home as a favorite of 7.5 points or greater.
And that's what the line is currently at right now, 7.5?
7.5 points or greater. Nebraska's 8-2 overall, 5-5 against the spread. They are currently on a 3-game win streak with both. Already this year, they've beaten Northwestern as an 11-point favorite, Buffalo as a 13.5-point favorite, Fordham as a 42-point favorite, and they've covered all 3. So that is good. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So I wanted to look back because the month of October has not been good to Nebraska over the years, over the last 2 decades, because that's usually all conference games, and Nebraska's, we all know that they haven't won a conference in over 20 years.
People forget.
So I wanted to go back and look at the last 10 games in the month of October where Nebraska has been favored by at least 7.5 points at home. Now, the good news is they've won their last 9. The last time Nebraska lost at home in the month of October as a 7.5 point or greater favorite was read out around the world.
That was a bad time. Have I ever told you a story about that game? I screamed at one point so loudly in it I hurt my shoulder out of sheer anger. I yelled, "It's happening again!" And then my shoulder hurt.
Yeah.
Bad times.
Now, Nebraska's won the last 9 outright, but against the spread, Nebraska's just 3-7, and the under has hit 7 out of 10 times. So that's a trend for you in the month of October when Nebraska's this big of a home favorite. Purdue in the month of October when they are this big of an underdog. Now, they're only 2-8 overall, but they're 9-1 against the number. So based on those 2 trends, Purdue might be a good choice against the number. Again, the number is 7.5. Purdue has won their last 6 games against the spread as this big of an underdog in October on the road. So there's some betting trends for you. By the way, Purdue was in exactly the same spot 2 weeks ago when they beat Iowa 24-7. They were an 11-point dog.
Just put up a poll question. Nebraska matches up with Purdue tomorrow. What's going to happen? Huskers are a 7.5-point favorite versus the Boilermakers. Nebraska wins and covers. Skurs win. Purdue covers. I only have a certain amount of characters. I had to use Skurs. Or Payne.
You could have used NU or UNL.
They're not NU. Purdue wins outright.
UNL.
So go vote right now. Not very many votes so far, but the folks are picking a Purdue win.
You're all idiots. Nebraska's winning.
Jeez, John, there are friends.
There are friends, but I called you
Always
an idiot.
keep your promises if you want to keep your friends.
I've called you an idiot before.
Yeah, well, that's a stupid opinion on your part.
All right, let's get to our keys to the game. Key number 1 for me.
Yep.
Win in the red zone.
That's a good one.
Purdue is just 98th in the country in red zone scoring percentage. Just 98th in the country. Mm-hmm. And in red zone touchdown percentage, they're 117th.
Ugh.
Now, of course, thanks to their poor special teams, they've missed a number of field goals inside the 20. Nebraska's only 105th in red zone scoring, but their touchdown percentage is better. They're in middle of the pack in college football. They're in the 60s. I think Nebraska's got to take advantage because Purdue can move the ball between the 20s. Nebraska needs touchdowns over field goals.
Yeah.
And I think one of the keys to that is to put yourself in manageable 3rd and 4th down situations. We have seen it, and man, it has really turned in the last few years. And we saw it yesterday with the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, they went for it on 4th down every time in yesterday's game in the second half. They had a couple of 3rd and 3s, or 4th and 3s, 4th and 4. Went for it every time. They made them all. I think, and that's been a trend across all of football. I think Nebraska. I think it's a smart play. If Nebraska's in 4th and 4 or less, I think it's a smart play to go for it inside the red zone.
Good take.
Forget the field goal obviously if it's a situation where a field goal can give you the lead or maybe make it a 2-possession game and it's in the second half, then maybe. But first half or, wherever the situation, make manageable third and fourth down. Make it manageable inside the red zone, and I think that can help you win the red zone tomorrow.
My first key, start fast. Nebraska in the first quarter this season has scored 0-7, 0-3, 0-21, 0, and 3 points. 34 combined points in 8 games. That is 4.3 first quarter points per game. And if you remove the 21 versus Northwestern, that's only 13 points in the other 7 games. Not even 2 first quarter points per game. And the odd thing about that too, John, is they've never been able to have consecutive games where they scored in the first quarter. Meanwhile, the Boilermakers have allowed 7, 0, 0, 0, 7, 0, and 7 points in the first quarter this year. 21 total, 3 first quarter points per game. This might be hindsight is 2020, but I thought early on versus Illinois and certainly early on versus Minnesota, we could tell it was going to be, and I italicize this, one of those games. You could tell early. Meanwhile, versus Northwestern, we could tell the exact opposite. And I would even say versus Michigan, the exact opposite. It was not going to be one of those games. Make sure tomorrow is not one of those games by getting out to a fast start and really just getting that nasty taste out of your mouth from what happened 2 weeks ago up in Minneapolis.
Run the ball, stop the run. When Purdue has never been, since at least in the last few years, has never been a great running team. But they've been effective when it counts. You look back at the last 3 matchups under the Scott Frost era. The 2018 game, this game.
We had a winnable game.
Winnable game!
Purdue rushed it for an average of 5 yards a carry, 4 touchdowns. They win by 14. 2019, Purdue rushes it for an average of 4 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Purdue wins the game. Last year, Nebraska, minus 2 yards rushing they held Purdue to.
Ooh,
Purdue could not run the ball. The only way they could move the ball was by passing. Nebraska wins the game. This year, Purdue is averaging 2.4 yards an attempt. That is pathetic. Now, King DeRue is he's serviceable as a running back, but he's not a huge threat. The quarterbacks aren't particularly adept at running. I like the idea of lighten the box, dare them to run, commit players back into coverage. I'm not convinced. I know Damon would rather see a pass rush. I don't like Nebraska's pass rush. It's just not good.
People forget.
I would rather have O'Connell back there thinking about it, because he's gonna give you a couple. Now, pressure is the best way to do it, but again, I don't really trust Nebraska's pass rush. Also, while you're lighter in the box, daring them to run, make sure you get on David Bell, knock him off his route. Tom Dienhart spelled it out earlier this week. Notre Dame and Wisconsin were able to do that. Those were the only 2 games where he did not get 100 yards receiving, and Purdue lost those games. The idea, if I see what I saw in the first half against Minnesota, I'm going to scream. Playing uber soft on the edges and just allowing easy pitch and catch.
Yeah.
Not against David Bell, please. Because this dude, when he catches the ball, he's dangerous after the catch. He's a good catch and run receiver. Play it with 6 in the box. Dare them to run. Play coverage on the backside.
I'm looking at the other side of the ball for my second key, and that is to keep George quiet. Karlaftis has had a quiet season, all things considered. Keep it that way. Purdue, only 91st in the country in getting to the quarterback. Nebraska is 100th in total sacks allowed. we don't know. Maybe I'll make this an I word. I don't know still exactly what to expect with Adrian Martinez health-wise. We heard what Frost said yesterday. We heard what Damon said earlier in the breakdown. Both of those guys very confident that we are going to see Adrian Martinez back to Michigan State level, pre-Michigan State level. If that's the case, make sure that he doesn't turn into what's happened since, where he's gotten banged up, he's gotten hit hard. Karlaftis, man, if you can tamp that down and maybe keep some of the plays away from him, every yard is going to be important in a game that could potentially be low scoring once more. So that's key number 2 for me, is to really do what other teams have done to him this year and don't allow him to have a huge major impact on the game.
Yeah, and I'll branch off on that. Maybe use his aggressiveness, let him get upfield and then step up in front of him. I think I'm calling it a designed scramble. It's not necessary. It's a run-pass option, but that's when Martinez has been the most dangerous this year. Mm-hmm. When he steps up and then sees a lane and goes.
Yep.
Well, you get Karlaftis rushing hard up the field, and you can get out in front of him. If you got a lane, take it. Also, I think Ramir Johnson's going to be big in pass pro in obvious passing situations. He is their best pass protector in the backfield. And if you are caught in obvious passing situations, I think he's going to be important there as well. So, if Martinez truly is back to full health, we need to see it in full. And knowing where Karlaftis is and maybe, letting him be more aggressive and just basically going where he isn't. It's the old hit him where they ain't.
Yep.
Where he's not, step up. You see a run, take it.
Third key, Adrian needs help. And I know that I have had a variation of this key a couple of times this year, but going into tomorrow, I feel that way even stronger. And as always, don't really care who it is. We've talked a lot this season about Xavier Betts. Would love to see him involved, especially giving him the ball in space, whether it's on a pass, whether it's a pop pass, whether it's a handoff, and allowing him to pick up some chunk yardage. Austin Allen has been excellent this season. Throw the ball up and let him do something with it. Ramir Johnson returning. He could be a major help in that way as well. On and on and on. Someone is going to have to help him. And by help, I don't, because if Adrian throws for 300 yards, you say, oh, hey, that's help. I want to see some players get the ball and pick up yards on their own rather than just a pass that goes for 30 yards and it was a 27-yard pass down the field. Give him some help, so that maybe the defense has to start defending the team a different way, and that's when he can take off and pick up some yards himself.
Yeah, I'll kind of branch off of that, too. It'd be nice to see the running back run game be a part of it. We saw what Wisconsin did last week. They only had to throw it 8 times, and they had a two-headed running attack that gained 290 yards rushing last week. Now, I know that Nebraska's offensive line isn't Wisconsin's offensive line, but I do think you can gain some yards against this team. I do think there's going to be a little bit of trepidation by Purdue to really keep close tabs on Martinez and not letting him get free. So perhaps it's that option game like Damon talked about. Maybe, run at Karlaftis in the option game. But anything that gets teams thinking, Tu's got the ball in his hand, what is he going to do? That you want him thinking that way, but you also want that contribution. And I really think Ramir's been in a good place recently, save for the concussion that he suffered against Minnesota. He's really stepped into that role as the number 1 running back. I'd like to see him, north of 15 carries tomorrow if possible.
I do have 2 more keys written down. One of them was essentially what you just said about the red zone, so I'm going to punt on that one. So this is going to be my last key. Live the big play life. Purdue's defense, it's crazy, John. They are 4th and 7th best in the country on allowing plays of 10 yards or more or 20 yards or more. So they do a really good job at those kind of intermediate, quote-unquote, big plays. They are horrible, though, on plays of 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70 yards. They are 73rd, 81st, 95th, 65th, and 53rd in those categories. Meanwhile, Nebraska's offense in those same categories, 3rd, 6th, 1st, and 1st. Nebraska Man, it's incredible how much better they have been in 2021 at the big plays. And so they are going against a defense that is not. How do you grab momentum? Bombing the ball early. I talked earlier about a nice first quarter. How did that Northwestern quarter start out? With a huge 70-yard pass down the field to Samori Toure. A perfectly timed option call. This defense obviously can be had. And I think that this offense might just be the perfect one to take advantage of it one more time.
Finally, my final key is no murmurs.
Murmurs.
We know how important this game is. This is, dare I say,
a winnable game.
We had a winnable game.
Out of the last 4, you're at home. You had a week off. Purdue is now in the same spot you were in 2 weeks ago. Except they were coming off games against Iowa and Wisconsin, 2 physical teams that can beat you up. And certainly last week, considering that Purdue had just broken into the top 25 and was feeling pretty good about themselves, had to be considered a big letdown. You got to wonder where their mindset is. There's no excuse for being flat, for not having juice, because I'll repeat what I said earlier. We do not need a repeat of 2016 Ohio State week. It's going to be tough enough, and it's going to be probably negative enough around here because it's Ohio State. But to go into that game with a 3-game losing streak, dropping 2 of them at home, would be unacceptable. No excuses. Make sure the guys are ready. Make sure you are ready. If you want to run it back next year with the same group and the same coaches, you need to play like it matters. You need to be the aggressor. You need to be the one that's making the other guy think maybe we didn't have enough juice. You don't want any murmurs in the stadium because those murmurs are going to turn into something else next week if we're talking about a loss to Purdue. But that's not happening. Predictions is coming up next, and we have a tie for second place.
I don't like this. I think, predictions, it was fun. I think it's run its course.
Oh, I thought this was a run. This is a run I'm good at. It's football.
Oh, is this why John killed the draft? Because he wasn't good at it?
Yes. He was bad at the draft, Nick. Thank you for reminding me.
That's why.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was bad at the draft. Predictions, what you say? And bet of the day on a One Beer Friday next on 1620 The Zone.